session because I know there's someone after me here. All right. Just want to make sure I get this. Okay. There we go. I'm hoping it's going to come up. The black screen of death will go away. Let me just, yay. Okay. Can you see the full slide? Like, is it your full screen? Says the 21 ways to connect older adults.
No.
Awesome. Am I getting a heads up? Is that a thumbs up? Yeah. Okay. Lovely. Thank you, everyone. Awesome. Well, my name is Nicole. Hannah, did you want me just to begin because it's taken longer? Yeah.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you. I'm hearing some feedback. Hannah, are you able to mute everyone else or? Okay, thanks. Great. Okay, well, hi, everyone. Thanks so much for your patience. My name is Nicole, and I am a rec therapist, CTRS, and so rec therapy is definitely a passion of mine. And one of the areas that I'm really excited to just explore and also share with you, is all about how we can connect our older adults. And even if you're working with adults with disabilities, nature is universal, and we don't need to just position it for one demographic. But because my area of kind of passion and also where I spent a lot of time has been with older adults, this is where I'm focusing on nature-based experiences, but it transcends any one demographic. So we're going to talk about 21 ways that you can connect seniors or older adults with the benefits of nature. And what we're going to cover today is a sub-theory from Deci and Ryan. I want to ground this in some type of theory. And so we're going to talk about the 3 basic psychological human needs that everyone has. And then I want to link that in with the benefits of nature and how you as a practitioner can use nature to help meet your clients, seniors or non-seniors, help meet your clients' basic human, psychological human needs. And then I want to walk you through 21 practical strategies that you can use. And my hope is that you'll find at least a handful of them that you can adapt or use directly with your clients. And then at the end, I'll share with you a resource you might want to take advantage of if this is content that you're looking more for. So I'm going to invite you to hop into the chat box. I know it's already been interactive watching, Hannah and I try to troubleshoot this, but I'm going to invite you into the chat box just to hear from you. What do you think the 3 basic human psychological needs are? So these are the 3 things. They're not physical, but it's psychological. So these are the things that we need, no matter our age or stage in life, to live. So if you can just take a moment and hop into that chat box. And I'm going to open it and we'll go through. And even if it's just one, okay, validation. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Sarah. Feeling included, a part of something, connection. Yes, belonging. Yes, love, acceptance, connection, safety, love, purpose, emotional support, safety. Absolutely, acceptance. Great. So you guys are honing in on some of those key concepts: connection, purpose, happiness, purpose, empathy. Absolutely. So as you kind of are already identifying, there's a lot of connection with people and relationships, inclusion, meaning. Absolutely. So thank you for sharing. So when we look at the 3 basic psychological human needs, what we're talking about, as I referenced just a minute ago, is Edward Deci and Richard Ryan's psychological basic psychological needs theory. So it's a sub-theory that comes out of their larger work on the self-determination theory. And I'm not going to go through all the theory with you in detail, but I want to highlight this sub-theory, the BPNT, and the 3 basic psychological human needs that we all have. And again, the relevance I'll be making is how we can help our clients, our older adults, our residents, achieve higher levels of meeting their psychological needs through nature. So the first psychological human need we all have, and they've done their research cross-culturally as well. So this is not just like a North American phenomenon or Eastern European phenomena. They've looked at it with people around the world. So first is competency. So this is the ability for people to feel successful at a task. So for example, if you are someone who loves to bake and you have a high degree of competency, you probably are searching out really challenging recipes that kind of give you a bit of, a bit of opportunity to explore and experiment. But if you don't like to bake at all, you're kind of thinking, oh, I'll just buy something, or maybe I'll make something really simple. And so that's just because of where your competency is. So as we increase our skills, our abilities, and our belief in what we can do, we often will engage more in that particular area. Second is autonomy. And this is really not about being independent and kind of being on your own. It's in this particular sub-theory, it's about having choice values. So think about the things you love to do. Maybe you have kids, maybe you have nieces or nephews, maybe you have pets, maybe you have all of those. And what do you what are your values? Do you value, connecting with nature? Do you value your spiritual practices? Do you value, fitness and staying healthy? And so when you participate in certain leisure experiences, naturally you're going to choose things that are aligned with your values. Now, when we look at older adults in care, what we're trying to do as recreation therapists is ensure that through our assessment process and even getting to know those older adults, that we're helping to align their interests and values and helping them to overcome any barriers to engagement. And so that again feeds into their psychological well-being. And then the third is relatedness. And this is where many of you were kind of totally highlighting the key components of relatedness. And it's interesting because in their sub-theory, they talk about how it's the ability to connect with others, but it also includes contributing to the greater good. So think about your life. You probably volunteer or give back, or if you're, you have relatives that you're supporting, you're connecting with them, but you're also contributing to their well-being. Maybe there's friends and you're really helping them through a tough time, right? You're giving back. You're not just connecting. Maybe you're part of a religious organization or some community-based organization, right? Again, you're connected, but you're giving back, you're contributing. And then part of that is belonging. And so when we think about the people we're supporting as clinicians, as practitioners, how are we effectively helping them achieve psychological health in these three areas? So competency, autonomy, and relatedness. So one of the implications when we look at older adults in care is that if they're not having these three basic psychological human needs met effectively and on a regular basis, it's going to impact their quality of life. And I've listed in front of you a number of different moods, behaviors, and symptoms that many of our older adults in care experience. And by no means are these going to be solved or resolved by rec and leisure, nor are they going to be solved or resolved by nature, nor are they going to be solved or resolved by simply addressing the three basic psychological human needs. Some helping to minimize symptoms are for older adults. So again, there's no one silver bullet that solves everything regarding quality of life, but we as rec therapists have an important role to play. And I think it's really important we're aware of those three basic psychological human needs so we can activate and support those through our programming and also through our clinical process. So I want to ask you to jump back into the chat box. And my question to you is, how can we help older adults meet these three basic daily needs? These three basic needs daily. So we're talking about competency, we're talking about, which is that believing in your ability to do something. The second is autonomy, which is you're doing things that are interesting to you and it's aligned with your values. And third is you're connecting, contributing, and belonging to others. So if you can just hop into the chat box and just share with me, how can we help older adults, and I apologize for that typo right in the middle there, I just noticed that, to meet those three basic psychological human needs. Checking in with them, absolutely. Being inclusive, volunteering in something of interest. Yeah, getting them to actively take a role in giving back, giving adaptations, better choice, independent leisure materials, providing them with different opportunities, connecting, having them, yes, lead programs. That's amazing. I love that idea. Listening, checking in with daily news and happenings, having meaningful conversations, providing different choices to choose from. They get to choose their activities. Absolutely. Choice is such an important part of these promoting these three basic human needs. So thank you so much for sharing that. And survey, absolutely, getting feedback from them, having them help to plan and engage. It's so important that co-leadership and where their abilities are strong and provide them with more skills, wanting them to keep using those skills and develop them. That's part of that competency. That's great. And so one of the areas that we can also support the development and the maintenance of those three basic psychological human needs is by connecting our older adults with nature. And I've listed there daily. And the reason being is we all are connecting consciously or unconsciously with nature. And I really think we have an opportunity as rec therapists to involve nature more in the daily rhythm and routine of our older adults. Why would this be beneficial? I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. If you have your mute button there, if you're able just to turn it off, and then when we do Q&A, please do take it off. But that would be great. Thanks so much. So why would I suggest nature is a great way for us to help our older adults meet those three basic psychological needs of competency, autonomy, and relatedness? Well, the reason is that there are key benefits that come out of nature that we can leverage in our practice. And we do this as kids automatically. Like if you kind of growing up are like, oh, I don't even really think about nature. I just kind of hang out in it or I play in it. You're getting all of these benefits. But again, as rec therapists, we need to be aware that many of our older adults need support to access these benefits of nature. So the first is that nature is just on its own multisensory. 24/7, connect with nature. It's always changing. Depending on what's happening in nature, we're going to be impacted by our sense of our skin, right? Like you're feeling the wind, hearing, seeing. There's potentially, depending on if you're eating something, you're tasting an herb that you just picked from the garden. Obviously, there can be taste involved too. And it's multi-sensory indoors as well as outdoors, because we can't have these on. We really need to focus as clinicians on how do we bring nature inside and
Hey, Nicole, can you hear me? All right, it looks like Nicole's Wi-Fi cut out, but I'll be messaging her and I'll try to get her back on track. But I'll just take a moment.
Okay.
Very quick. We can hear you now and see you.
Okay, great. All right. I don't know what happened. A solar flare, right? All this talking about nature. Sorry about that. So multisensory, so I'm just going through the benefits of nature. So there's multisensory, there's active and passive. And the next one I want to highlight that we can leverage as rec therapists is, and it was mentioned in the chat box a little while ago, is purposeful activities. And when we think about belonging, expressing ourselves non-verbally or verbally, giving back, nature provides us with a natural way to do all of that. And some of the examples I'll give you in a moment will highlight the benefits and the way we can be purposeful with nature. And then the fourth is the ability to shift people's emotional state. I think this is really important, especially if you're working with people who have dementia, because if somebody's really apathetic, so low mood, low motivation, or someone's on the other end, quite agitated, quite responsive, how can you help shift or redirect them so that they can enter into an emotional state that is more more healthy for them, and that they're able to focus and be more engaged positively in the moment. And now we know a lot of mood-related behaviors with people with dementia is simply communication. Something's wrong and they're trying to communicate and it's frustrating for them. But one of the things I want to highlight is that if we have nature as kind of a tool in our kit, and if we understand for the people we're supporting how they like to engage with nature, we can help them to be redirected through nature. And that could be indoors, or it could be something as simple as, let's step out to the patio and sit and listen to the breeze, or just feel the rays of the sun. That could take someone who's escalating down a little bit, and they could maybe just redirect and notice a bird flying by, and that becomes the new focus for that period of time. So I encourage you to think about those benefits in your practice. Now, the fifth benefit of nature, which I think is so important, is that it's unpredictable. Now, when we look at our older adults in care, they lead pretty prescribed and pretty predictable lives. And that's necessary, right? There's medication that needs to be given. There's bathing. There's food that needs to be, provided at certain designated meal times. There's, appointments with physicians or with other allied health professionals. And there's also scheduled time with programs or one-on-one with you in a therapeutic context. So unpredictability is not something that happens a lot in their day-to-day rhythm. But when we engage people with nature, we actually are naturally exposing them to healthy, unpredictable experiences. Because when you sit outside in a garden, even in the winter, if you're looking through the window and you're seeing the snow fall and then it stops and then you notice some birds at the bird feeder, something as simple as that is unpredictable. Nobody knows when a bird's going to show up at the bird feeder, right? That's an unpredictable experience that if you can start to kind of set up the environment for nature to kind of be outside that window, or for them to engage with nature more, you'll be introducing them to more unpredictable experiences, which can help with competency, autonomy, and relatedness. Because there's something about, if you value, nature, which most people do in different degrees, and if you're interested in doing something other than sitting there watching TV, for example, even that basic kind of skill of autonomy is going to be met by simply connecting people more with nature. So those are the 5 benefits. And when you think about them, you can see how they help people to really achieve a higher degree of competency, autonomy, and connection and contribution. So before I share with you the 21 different skills or the 21 different strategies or ways that you could connect people with nature, I want to just highlight some facilitation tips that are really fundamental to being successful with any type of, program or clinical type intervention. It's so important that with nature, we always want to have a success orientation. So environment you're working in, you want analysis. You want to and then you would build to put together a sanctuary because you want more birds to come to the backyard. do depending with their health. And so you want to think about that whole project and go, okay, that unit, that neighborhood, that group of seniors, and a couple people did a little bit. So again, that's kind of looking at a bit outcome driven. I know a lot of differences on that, but there's a lot of tactile benefit. There's value to that. They might be able to help maintain their ability to, but could you, pipe cleaner flowers, could you still innervate and activate fine motor skills with the hands by putting together a green wreath? Because we're coming up into the holidays, especially in America with Thanksgiving, you could use nature-based crafts or nature-based experiences to help with those therapeutic outcomes. Important for, really experience. And the strategies, think about what would be the best way for you to your. Is it best to have it as a project where it's do it yourself? You kind of set it up and then they're good to go. Is it best one-on-one in more of a therapeutic or general one-to-one experience? Or would it be appropriate in a micro group, which is like 2 to 3, maybe 4 people, or a small group, which is often 8 to 12 people or more, depending where you work. Now, I know COVID has had a huge impact on how we do programming, and so many times people are using parts that are environment, or if you're going to be coming into an internship in the new year, thinking about how could some of these individuals you'll be working with. So I want to launch in. So the first way that you can better connect older adults with nature is by realizing that there's value in being in nature, but there's also value in virtual experiences. And I want to share with you, this comes out of images. And sometimes in the depths of winter, looking out a window or out of, nature, like a National Geographic or a nature-based documentary. We have a lot of live webcams globally that the benefits of nature for your older adults. And then, of course, most benefits is being immersed in nature. That would be being outside. But I wanted to highlight this because we live, most people in the world live in a climate that has either excessive seasons that make it difficult for people to be safe outside, but especially people who are receiving care. And so we don't want to think something we only do in spring and summer and early fall. I want to encourage you to think about how can this be something that's a part of your practice, your programming, year round. So the second item I want to share with you that is something you could be doing is a virtual photo album. Now, what this would involve is this is an indoor experience. And how this would work is that community members, family members, you could, if you're a classroom, you could have them mapping photos locally of different nature experiences. So if there's some local parks that are usually covered in snow, or it's just too cold or too rainy for you to take your client or your residents out, it's great to engage community. So it could be family, staff, again, school, this could be intergenerational, and you ask them to take photos, really nice photos, just on their phone when they're in nature. And they would benefits is that you could put together a feedback loop. You could simply, have it so it's all PDF, and you tablet, and you could have as part of your one to one. Rec therapists. It could be just a general program, or you could link it in with some more around cognitive stimulation, active appreciation, that sort of thing. Another great way to connect people. Yes, they're amazing. They're thriving. The reason I love air plans as a simple project is because if you're working with people with dementia, these are non-toxic for pets and people. And sometimes eating or nibbling, or if they touch it and then they touch their face. And so we always want to be thinking about the older adults we're working with and what is the safest way to connect them with nature. So the other thing I love about air plants is that if you're working with some oak, and maybe they don't have access to the farm, you know, to have more control put in an open terrarium. And so it's very simple, but again, what are some of the goals that can be achieved through this? Well, they can start to have success. They can start to take care of something. And if they forget, or if it is not going to be something that, they can manage on a daily basis, this only needs to be attended to 1 to 2 times a week, and other staff or friends or family could help them with it. So it gets people who used to garden into indoor gardening, but in a very low barrier, success focused way. So when we think about competency, we think about autonomy, and we think about relatedness, this checks all 3 of those boxes. Another great way to keep gardening happening inside all year round, you can put this on a windowsill under one of those grow lamps, or you can put it outside if you've got some great weather and it's spring or summer, is cat grass. Now, again, looking back at how do we improve and elevate the psychological well-being of our older adults? Well, we want them to do something that they can be successful at, right? Competency. They have to believe they can do it. Growing this cat grass is super simple, non-toxic, safe for pets and people. And the nice thing about it is that it grows very quickly. You start to see shoots coming up after like 4 days. So the benefits of that is that you're not waiting for 60 days to see some green, sprouting up from the earth. That can cause people to forget about what's even growing, and people don't tend to engage with it the same way. So in having gardens and having a lot of additional things that you're growing, I encourage you to think about the grow cycles. So have something like cat grass that's always turning over, and things that take longer periods of time, so that there's always something that needs to be tended. And the other thing I recommend with cat grass is that you grow it not in a large tray, you grow it in taking care of their own alone. Sometimes community with older adults, what can happen is you get a couple people who have been gardeners or farmers, and they do it all, and they do it all for everybody. And the only thing the person did was they put the seeds on the soil, and that was it. We really want people to follow the project through. That's part of competency. It's part of autonomy. Give it away to a neighbor. If they're doing this at their home, they can give it away to the like an SPCA, like a cat shelter. And they can keep doing this every 7 days, every week. They could plant a new batch of cat grass and just keep giving it away. So that contribution, that need to give back, part of relatedness, this can be met through this type of an indoor gardening initiative. Another option that's happening in long-term care or assisted living or even senior living many of the times is to shift to virtual. As I shared with you earlier, photos and videos are really helpful in still connecting people with the benefits of nature. And so when you think about how can you keep that strong rapport, this is one consider. So you obviously have a pet and you have a volunteer that comes in with that pet. And if they can't come in anymore because of COVID, my recommendation is for you to set up with those residents who enjoyed it, set up a virtual visit, just like you might be doing for their family. And they could see Fido and Fanny, maybe Fanny's the handler, right? And they get to connect, and they get to bonds are powerful. Honor that really stay connected. Even if the visit is 5 minutes, right? It's still 5 minutes where they got to touch base and see how that pet is doing. In addition, picture of the animal that is really their virtual pet, and that could be beside their bed. It's another way for people no, and if you could have the name of the dog underneath it. No, it's Fido, it's Fanny's dog, but we talk once a week. There's a connection. Again, it helps to meet those basic psychological human needs. Leverage this is to connect with farmers or breeders and have non-traditional animals that you never would bring into, a particular living, like a home or a community living organization. And you could do a short kind of FaceTime, Zoom, WebEx type experience. You're going to see, you're just going to be showing them sheep in the barn. And if they used to be farmers, that's really neat. Again, it might be 5 or 10 minute virtual visit, but it's another way to keep your animals going. Now, if you do have pets that are accessible to your older adults, maybe you're allowed to bring your animals in. I know some communities can bring them, or you might have on the unit an animal, such as a cat. One of the things the literature has shown is that grooming can help people to have transferable benefits. So if you're grooming, that can be something that is part of an interdisciplinary, like a restorative program. If you're so again, particular handheld device. And so that could be something you can do some collaborative work around helping them reach those rehab goals, but again, also connecting with what their interests and values are, building competency, and connecting them with animals and other people. So again, checking all those boxes for the psychological human needs. So another strategy that you can use seasonally, regardless of where in the world you are at, is to really look at what's happening from a Hallmark holiday perspective, and also what's happening with nature around you. So most of the Northern Hemisphere is entering cold, rainy, wet, snowy, icy season. And so you might not be able to do gardening the same way as obviously you would spring, summer. But when you think about the next 2-3 months, what could you be using and doing with your older adults to connect them with nature? And so here's an example of fresh balsam fir, cedar boughs. Could it be that you bring in some of those beautiful natural fir boughs, and you, as part of a craft or as part of an initiative, you put together some type of a wreath, but it's all natural, very simple. I did this last year on my own with an art group, and it was amazing, and it was not intense. The person facilitating this workshop had certain things cut up and certain things ready for us to do. And if you're working one-on-one or in a micro group, this is a great way to have aromatherapy naturally, because you could have pine cones, you could have like 6 or 7 different forest related, tactile things, different types of fir, different types of pine cones, and start a reminiscing, a conversation. And then you end by putting together something. And it doesn't even have to be a circular wreath. It could be a swag that just hangs, right? Like, you create something simple, but that is adult appropriate and really highlights what's happening that season, and get some thinking and touching and having a multi-sensory experience indoors with nature. Another popular program, this may be something you're already doing. It's something that people have a lot of success with. I know it can be expensive depending on where you're working, but if you're able to connect, especially during COVID, and maybe you can't bring entertainers in, so there's more money in your budget, I really encourage you to think about how can you bring more fresh, real flowers into the rooms and the common spaces of the older adults you're supporting, if you're in a community type environment. And if you're working one-on-one in someone's home, I still think it's very relevant for you to look at the therapeutic process you're using and how can you bring more flowers in. So I gave the example earlier of, pipe cleaner flowers, right? Like, or tissue paper flowers or origami flowers. Yes, you can do all that, but it's not real. So how could you have people cutting and doing things with flowers that would help them still maintain their fine motor skills, would help them to work on some of those other, like, decision making, verbalization. Something as simple as, you have, say, 3 different colors of flowers and you want them to choose one. There's choice. Maybe you want them to reach, so you can lay the flowers further ahead, like on the table, but you don't have them all right in front of them. So there's some reaching. So getting more kind of functional movement can happen as well as with choice. So this could be something you do, again, room to room, or it could be set up in a common space or at someone's home. Just a pro tip here that comes out of the research is just to understand that for any of the people you're working with that have cataracts, they struggle to see cooler colors like greens, violets, and blues. So it is recommended that you stay with brighter colors like yellows, reds, and oranges, because those can be much easier for people with cataracts to see. Now, another important way that you can connect people with nature is a concept called desirable destinations. Now, obviously, this is a picture of a park bench in the summer. There's some marigolds around it, but you can create desirable destinations any time of the year. So for individuals in a cold climate, what would that look like? Well, you're going to want to walk around to everyone's room if you're in a residence, and you're going to want to look at the windows that they're looking through. What do they wake up and see? Is it just a blank field? Is it just a shrub? If they're at their own home, what do they see? In the common spaces, when you look out the windows, what do you see? Is there any way to build some type of backyard bird sanctuary in one area where a number of people from their windows will see birds flying in and out throughout the day? Is there a way to, in the spring even, have some new shrubs or a garden planted in a certain area so that it can be viewed from a number of different windows? So these desirable destinations, this concept comes out of the work of, it comes out of this whole work around functional care. And this concept, and Barbara Resnick has used this as a way to motivate people to move more. And I'm using it in this context to really highlight the way we can connect people, give them a motivation to stay in nature longer. So if you're walking on a path and you see a park bench, instead of just stopping and sitting on the walker, they might still have lots of energy. And you can say, hey, let's just make it to that park bench and we'll sit down and we'll just watch the birds. So that's an example of a desirable destination. But you can do the same thing indoors. If you set things up strategically, it could be, let's walk to the end of the hall and we'll look out and see what's happening outside. And there's something there. Maybe, you have a pollinator garden in the spring, or maybe in the winter, again, you have bird feeders or something else that's really attractive. And again, you're getting them to move and you're getting them to focus on competency. I can do it. Autonomy. I value nature. I want to see what's happening outside. And relationship. You're not just talking about clinical needs. You're connecting them with a purpose, and you're doing it with them. Another thing that I wanted to share, and it tends to be in northern climates, something more for spring, summer, and fall, but I wanted to put it on your radar because some cities or municipalities have this as a formal program. It's like adopt a trail, adopt a park, adopt a dugout, right? There's lots of different ways that you can connect people with their local community, their parks and rec system. But sometimes cities and towns and villages and municipalities don't have a formal program. And what's really great about this is that you could start the conversation at any time with your client or clients. And if you live in a warmer area, like if you live like in the US, like basically North Carolina below, or out west where I live, which is we get lots of rain, but you can still have some dry days and get outside, you could use this year round. The idea is that you want to connect people with their local park system because this is a way for them to be more integrated, not just in nature, but also socially. They also get to give back. So when you adopt a park, you could do it formally or informally. You could set up something where they agree that they would like to go visit a park once a month, once every week, once every 2 weeks, whatever. And there's certain routes they'll go with you. They'll walk, or if they're in a wheelchair, you'll be able to assist them, or they could self-propel. And the idea is that you're going to have them either looking for debris, maybe if they're capable, they can pick up litter. And a formal adopt a park or trail has usually some protocols or things that they would recommend people do, but you could again adapt it for whatever's most appropriate. And after COVID, this is something you could have more, of a connection with family, right? A family member could come and take their loved one out to the park where they've committed that I'm going to visit this once a week because I want to make sure that, if there's any graffiti, I report it, those sorts of things. And you can always advocate. Rec therapists do a lot of advocating. So if this is something you're like, I think my town or village should really consider this, then you could start that conversation now so that in the spring, this could be maybe more of a program or an initiative that you share with your clients. Interactive cues or outdoors with nature. This is you around the home or the community or the local area where your seniors are spending time. It's the birds, right? They might not even realize can
Nicole, can you hear us?
yes, I can.
Okay. I know a while back someone suggested maybe turning off your video. You could try that, see if that helps with
Oh, okay.
connectivity and like audio quality. You can try it out.
Yeah. No, I was just asking about, are you having trouble hearing me?
Yeah, and sometimes seeing. I think it's a Wi-Fi connection issue.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. I wasn't aware of that. Do I have 5 more minutes, or what's the time wise? Where I started late, I want to just make sure that I cover key points, but I don't want to
You
delay.
have just about 5 more minutes.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to power through the next number of them. But you'll be able to see as we go through kind of what I'm 12. Number 12 is a nature-based bingo. Now, this can be done inside or outside. This is a great way to get people moving. So when we think about physical activity or active leisure, which is something we all can be promoting as rec therapists, you could have indoors, you could have succulents, you could have ants, and they could be in different locations. And it could be that you label them so it's really clear to your older adults, or it could be that they just know their plants and you don't need to label them. It becomes a physical, a cognitive exercise. It's also a great way to really putting 5 or 10 different plants type sheet, and having, and that's the whole bingo card is pictures, and they have to go find the can do what they're doing in the spring, places in the garden. So another oh, lost audio again. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Okay.
We can hear you now.
I'll just apologies. But this is a project, another simple but kind of semantic way of engaging people with nature is the words you use. Sometimes we'll say, do you want to go outside? Even the way we say it, it's like, oh, that's going to take a lot of time and energy. And so what we can do, and this comes out of a colleague of mine, she shared this with me and I really like it. It's called a fresh air fix. And you can put this on your calendar if you're someone who develops calendars. If you're doing care plans, it could be that you want someone to have a fresh air fix, which could be 5 or 10 minutes outside for fresh air and for general light. But this is something that is a great way to get people outside for short periods of time and to make it easy for them to do it, and for other members of their family or care team to see it as doable. We're helping someone just get outside for a few minutes. What we know about vitamin D and also sleep quality is we don't need a lot of time in nature. What we simply do, we need to have 10 to 15 minutes of natural daylight. Another way that you can help raise awareness and engage people is by having something like a 3 or 5 mile meal. And you may live in an area where, farmers markets are big in the spring and summer, but they're not so big in the fall and winter. But you could still be creative and even have 25 or 50% of your meal locally sourced. And this is part of choice. It's part of conversation. It raises conversation also around what's being grown where I live now, and reminiscence. And so it can be some creative topics and conversations, and also choosing recipes that you can use with your residents. Another way to bring nature inside, but also to enjoy it outside from a sensory perspective, is to use wind chimes. Now, by wind chime, you could make it, and that can be quite challenging depending on what type of a wind chime you make. But what you can do is you could look at the older adults you're supporting, and you could purchase something that really reflects their interests. So here's an example of a bamboo wind chime. And this could be something that really, the sound and everything about it really connects somebody with culturally what they used to hear when they were, kind of in outside or around their home, kind of growing up. And so you can use this type of a device, something super simple, to help people think and feel and be aware of the wind outside while they're inside or while they're outside. Now, there's a couple other items that are more expensive, but they do provide experiences with nature which are very beneficial. Virtual reality is a great way for people to literally swim with dolphins, or to be in the jungle with elephants in a real environment, but it's 3D. So I just encourage you, if you're in an environment where you can use virtual reality, I've seen some people with dementia love it, some people not so much, but I encourage you to think of virtual reality as a great way to connect people with nature. During the cold, rainy season or snowy season, using guided visualizations is another fantastic way to help people imagine and transport themselves, through to more warmer or more enjoyable environments. If they're always seeing snow, therapists, that we have other using their imagination and also other senses. And often one of the key things we're focused on in long-term care, assisted living, is hydration. And this can be something that you do connect with nature. So it could be a project, if you will, that you do maybe once a week. It could be some more herbs, more fruits, more things that come from nature. And this can spark conversation. This can be something that, again, is multi-sensory, and you can do it in a very infection-friendly way. Number 20, the strategy for engaging people with nature is really putting together a backyard birding sanctuary. Now, it could be super simple. You hang, a couple bird houses, really come first suggestion on how you our evenings in use an app. But here's a pro tip. You could connect can connect people with nature. So Hannah, I'm going to stop there because I know we're out of time. So I don't know if you wanted to ask for questions, or if you just wanted close off for the next presenter.
Yes, actually, I was going to ask you a question, Nicole. Could you possibly send me this PowerPoint if I give you my email again so I can email it out to all the attendees that were here? Or those who, yeah, I'll just email it to everyone. That would be possible. Hello? Okay.
Hannah, if we've lost Nicole, we can reach out to her after the fact and see about getting a copy.
Okay, yeah. That works too.
Okay. Also, the plan is to upload all these recordings into YouTube so people can always review it there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Hannah, can you hear me?
I know yes, I can hear you now.
Did you want me to close off then? Or did you have any questions you wanted to ask me?
I can just email you later referring to the PowerPoint slides. So, but that's it for me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.